Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, by the power vested in me, I now confer upon you the degree for which you have been recommended, together with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto appertaining. Dr. Tyson, a role model for scientists everywhere and an inspiring example of aiming for the stars, as a token of our appreciation, I would also like to present to Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson the President's Medal of Honor. Please join me in giving a great Bronco welcome to our 2024 commencement speaker, astrophysicist, author, pop culture icon, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
It's called gravity. Yeah, I got that. I'm not ready for the mic drop just yet. Yes. Now I've got bling just like the president's got right there. Yeah. Mr. President and our previous elected officials, trustees, parents, friends, loved ones, graduates. It is a privilege. No, it's an honor to address you today. First of all, I well up when I look at flags. 100 countries. How many dialects are spoken, languages? I wonder, is Bronx a dialect? Is that one of the dialects spoken? Bronx? Bronx. Boogie down, Bronx. Add that to one of the languages, for sure. I am a native son of the Bronx. Let me see how much Bronx I could share with you. When I was born, we lived in the hillside homes on Hicks Street in the Bronx. As the family got larger, we needed to move to a bigger apartment. Didn't have much money, moved into the housing projects on Castle Hill Avenue, Castle Hill Housing Projects. Those are my earliest memories. I attended PS 36. And then my father, who valued education, as did his parents, my grandparents. My grandmother had an 8th grade education. It didn't go beyond that, not because she didn't value it, but because the opportunities were not there for her at a time where she needed to raise her siblings and others in the family. But the valuation was there. My father, yes, would graduate college. His income would go up. We had to move out of the housing projects. Remember, they're income capped. We moved from there to Riverdale, the Bronx. And that was surreal, going from housing projects to an apartment building with a doorman. Not only a doorman, a swimming pool, and an ice rink. In different seasons, of course. That was surreal for me. These were the Skyview apartments in the Bronx. That's when I fell in love with the universe after a first visit to the Hayden Planetarium. I walked dogs, earned money, bought my first telescope, took it to the roof of that building, and that's where I drank in the universe. Oh, by the way, those buildings, we moved in 60 years ago. Those buildings had picketers out front to prevent black people from moving in. Within a year of that, there'd be housing legislation in Congress preventing that. So these are forces of social justice. I didn't realize, I didn't think much of it at the time because I'm just a kid, but my father was a sociologist. And you know where he taught sociology 60 years ago? At Bronx Community College. And when you're 8, there's nothing more complex than have your parents talk to you about sociology, communities, races, nations, attitudes, civil rights. These were complex issues, but I had that exposure. The meaning and value of caring about the plight of others. The progressive forces that needed to be put into play. Yes, I knew I wanted to be a scientist from very early. But that doesn't happen unless walls are broken down, opportunities rise up, so that I can realize my dreams. I can tell you that at no time in my life have I ever forgotten the value of the effort put in by others to try to make this world a better place. Is there any higher calling than that? And my father had special ways of doing this. He also taught history at Bronx Community College, and he would mix together different aspects of the world. It's not just history in a vacuum. There are social movements, cultural movements, political movements. There's all manner of other art movements going on at any given time, all cross-pollinating. That is the total structure of society. It's not just one thing or another. And yes, science is unfolding while that's happening. We are going to the moon. You have a moon tree. Did you see it walking by here? On the way out, if you don't know you have a moon tree, there's a tree guarded. It is a sapling of a sycamore, American sycamore, from seeds that flew around the moon 2 years ago in the Artemis 1 mission of NASA. So you have a tree that has seen the far side of the moon. Now, why do I mention that? Why should anyone care? Because it's kind of just a tree. But wait a minute, you got to pause and reflect on that for a moment. It went into space. Oh, you know something true about space? See all the flags waving? In space, there is no air. And where there is no air, flags do not wave. Arthur C. Clarke observed, maybe that means space is no place for nations. It's a place for humans, regardless of nations. That's a point of ambition. I don't even know if we're ready for that yet. So much of who we think we are, or know we are, comes from our culture, our nations, our flag, what side of a line in the sand you're born on. I get that. But you know something? When the asteroid comes, it's not going to ask you what your nationality is. When a pandemic virus hits, it's not going to be stopped at passport control. It will cross boundaries without regard to the lines we have artificially drawn to divide us. And so when I look at what we need to do, yes, we celebrate diversity, something that was never celebrated before. Oh my gosh, old timers here will remember that. You're an outsider your whole life, removed from opportunity. The fact that there's opportunity for all of us, almost all of us, is progress. And more progress still needs to be achieved. Yes. But how do you achieve? I'll tell you how you achieve. Yes, this graduation is an achievement, but I hope it is the least achievement in your life. I don't know who's ever told you that. I'm telling it to you now. I hope it's the least achievement you can put on your resume. Because when you get out and enter the real world, two kinds of people in the workplace. One of them, you give them a task, and they say, this is not on my resume, it was not in my job description, I'm not going to do this. Another person says, wow, this was not on my resume and not on my job description, but it's a really cool problem, I want to try to solve it. Two different kinds of people. One of them solves problems they've never seen before. The other one is ossified, frozen in whatever they thought was their academic achievement. You know who that first category are? Those are the people, after graduation, they run down the steps, say, school's out, and they toss their books and papers in the air, and that's the end of their learning. Those people become grown-ups who have no way to look beyond their tunnel vision. Because the world that was set for them when they stepped out of school is the world they carry with them for the rest of their lives. And that is counter to any kind of progress that would ever happen in this world. So you should think as you go forward, don't ask yourself, what do I need to know to have the job in the future? Jobs in the future are not going to be handed out by your base of knowledge, no. In the end, it will never be about what you know. It'll be about how is your brain wired for thought. These are two different things. And love me some 4.0 GPA, don't get me wrong, but 5 years from now, nobody's going to ask you what your GPA was. Ask any grown-up out here in the outer fence, in the tents, any of you. When was the last time someone asked you your GPA? What they asked you, were you a hard worker? Are you a problem solver? Are you moral? Are you committed? Those are the kinds of things that actually matter going forward. So, you put all that together, and I want to add one other thing. Just to give a shout out for people who took physics. We got some physics people, a couple of physics people, okay? Do you realize when you go into a hospital, every machine brought into the service of diagnosing the condition of your body without first cutting you open is based on a principle of physics discovered by a physicist who had no interest in medicine. So there's no progress in medicine without the tandem research that goes on in the world of physics, and especially engineering as well. That's just one example of many I could give to impart upon you the following blunt fact: that everything we value and what we call civilization is not one line of thought, is multiple tributaries of expertise and commitments made by people devoting their lives to making discoveries that come together in new and innovative ways. And that's what shapes the future of civilization. So, you don't say, here's my expertise and I don't care about anything else. Go home if that's how you think about the world. Go home. Your library at home should have books about it all. Literature, history, science, engineering, languages, all of this, health, just so you have some sensitivity of what's going on. Because if you don't, I don't want to say what good are you, but yeah, what if you don't, you're less useful, that's all. And don't you want to be a little useful to the world? There's a quote from the great educator Horace Mann. This I want on my tombstone. This is 200 years ago. Great educator Horace Mann, speaking in the flourish of language of English of the era. I beseech you to treasure up in your hearts these my parting words. Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity. And I will leave you with those thoughts. Thank you all.